In today's video, we're going to be looking at lean and thick makeup application. It will be a split face application with Kat as our model, and my name is Ricky Greenwell. So for this application, I'm just utilizing a lightweight makeup that's going to allow me just to give an even, flawless coverage to the skin. That's going to be a layer or base to do my highlights and shadows to create the contour of the shapes for the lean and thick look. Here I'm just utilizing a beauty blender to just blend out my makeup for an even application on Kat's skin. After applying my foundation with my beauty blender, I just use the heat from my hands. I rub my hands together and I kind of warm up any makeup application or makeup just from the heat from my hands, just to make sure that I don't have any lines of demarcation, any spots that are inconsistent. I'm just looking for a complete coverage to the skin. I'll take my beauty blender and fill in any areas that I may have noticed imperfections with. Now I'm just taking a powder puff with powder and setting the face, just giving a nice even coverage, or just making sure I'm looking at setting the product in place before I go ahead and do my highlights and shadows. It's my goal to not do a lot of product in the face so that I can be working with a set powder. And then I'm just taking a clean powder brush just to dust off any powder that or any leftover residue that's on the skin. So here I'm just utilizing a flat brush. I have both highlight and shadow. Here I'm just working with my shadow products to create the shape and contour on the face. So the notion of working on a lean side versus a thick side, if I'm trying to create contour on the face, here I'm working in a split face technique. So on the left side of Kat's face, I'll be looking at a lean structure, and on the right side of Kat's face, I will be working at creating more roundness or thickness to her face. So above the brow, I just am creating a short, thin line that's above the brow area that's a little disconnected from the brow itself. On my thick side, I'm actually connecting that line with the brow and creating a rounder shape. This is going to help create a little bit more of a illusion of the forehead shadow. And down the bridge of the nose, on the lean side, I'm actually putting my shadow right on the cartilage of the nose, paying attention to the shape of Kat's natural nose and looking at those lean features. Where on the thicker side, I actually move my shadow down the bridge of the nose ever so slightly, still touching the cartilage, but just making it look like it's a little bit thicker when I put my highlight in. Now I move shadows into the temple of the head, across the forehead. On my rounder side, I'm looking for kind of that rounder shape to go into place. On the leaner side, I'm still looking for sharper, straighter angles. So here you can see I'm doing a temple highlight. The objective here is to kind of fill in and create a little bit of that harsher, or at least a straighter shape that the temple is not caving in, but it's giving the illusion of that gaunt face. Now I'm adding a little bit of highlight right above the brow area, and in the leaner side, just kind of keeping it thin and sharp, and in the rounder side, I'm just working for that shape and roundness, where I'm actually painting it up across the face and then carrying it over the brow itself to make the illusion that the bridge of the brow or that ridge of the brow is just a little bit thicker or fuller. I'm just taking now a beauty blender to blend out any of my work with my contours. And here it's important to think of line quality versus if it's a contour. So here above the brow, it's going to have a little bit more of a linear quality. Underneath the eyelids, around the nasal labial area, will have a linear quality. Anything that's coming from the crow's feet, those are going to be more linear in shape. Areas of like the cheek, the forehead, those are all going to be areas of contour. So they should have a natural softness when you're working versus having more of a linear shape. So this is where understanding a little bit of the elements and principles of design are going to help you to understand how to shape, contour, and highlight the face. My Beauty Blender took off a little bit more shadow than I expected, so I'm just going in with my brush and adding a little bit more contour. As we talk about elements and principles of design, one of the hardest things I can say as a makeup artist is understanding how much product you need to put in your brush. I use a palette and a palette knife where I'm putting my product onto a palette, and then I use my brush to sample from that, so that I'm not ever truly wasting product or contaminating my product by putting my brush into the product itself. But I have a preference of I would rather grab a little less product and have to apply more product onto the face than to grab a little too much shadow into character shadow into a brush and then put it on the face, because that's when the face starts to become a little bit muddy and messy. Now I'm working into the shape of the brows. I'm adding the fat pocket to the thicker side of the eye, and I'm creating a roundness or curved shape as I'm working. And on the lean side of the eye, here you can see I'm actually kind of dissecting Kat's eye in a very linear fashion. So it's actually looking as if it's going to be a little bit more of a crepey eye, so that it's not as much of a bag, but a crepe texture. And then I am applying my highlight just to the fall of the brows, so that it has that highlight texture there, and then the lid will be affected by that straight line. Where on the round side of the face, I am putting the highlight into the fall of the brows also, but I'm taking the highlight right above that that shape that I've created as well. Now I go in with my brow pencil to fill the brows. On my lean side, my objective is to do nothing more than just kind of fill the brows as natural as possible and leave them as light as possible. On my thick side, I'm going to fill the brows first, and then I'm going to go in and add a little bit more shape and definition, just ever so slightly over painting those brows to make sure that they look a little bit on the thicker side. Still using the spoolie end on the brow brush to fill or to smooth and groom the brows though. Now I'm going in with some highlight and adding a little bit of highlight to the eyelid itself to create the shape and contour, and adding a little bit of highlight as Kat opens her eyes. Just using a Beauty Blender to kind of blend out any excess product onto the lid so that it's not crepey. Now I'm taking my shadow and starting to create contour in Kat's face. The objective on my thicker side of the face is, once again, I'm always thinking about how I can create roundness to my overall appearance. So as I'm creating my contour, I'm thinking about making sure that this side of the face has rounder features. So even most of my motion is going to go in a rounder shape. Here I'm just using my brush to paint in a jowl line to add a little bit of fullness to Kat's jaw. And on the lean side, I go with a sharper angle. So it's a little harsher. You can see that I'm actually taking it a little higher onto her cheek, so that her cheekbones are going to get a little bit of a lift, and then I'm going to kind of pull it straight down so I have like an angle to my shape and contour. And I'll also enhance Kat's jawline, but instead of creating a round shape, my objective is to actually go slightly above the jaw and actually pull it in a straight fashion, so it's giving me a strong angle. So when I'm thinking about lean makeup, it's all about strength, angle. If I'm trying to create roundness or contour on my thicker side, it's all about creating that rounder appearance to the line. Now working in that nasolabial fold. On the round side, I'm actually going to follow the shape and contour of the cheek. On the lean side, I'm going to cut it ever so slightly inside the mouth, so that it actually is creating a little bit of a muzzle feel. I'm going to take some character shadow on the edge of the lips, on the rounder side, going in an arced direction out of the lip. On the lean side, I'm going to pull it straight down for appearance. Same is true with the chin. On my rounder side, I'm going to give me some roundness or some depth to the chin. On my lean side, I'm going to try to cut it a little short. I am adding a little bit of a character divot just to have a different appearance to the face as I'm working. After I've gone through with all my highlights, I now go, or all my shadows, I now go through with a highlight to reinforce. So I have a shadow line that's coming straight down from the eyes on my lean side and a curved from my round side. And then I'm taking my highlight underneath the eye to give that under eye highlight appearance. Adding highlight onto the lip below my shadow lines. And here I'm going to be applying highlight just to the top of the cheek itself for my lean side. For my rounder side, I am going to add a little bit of a highlight to the base of the cheek so that it actually gives me a little bit of a round appearance. So here on my lean side, I'm applying that highlight to the top portion. On the round side, I'm actually flipping it so that the jaw is going to appear a little wider or rounder. Adding a little bit of highlight just onto my chin. And then just taking a beauty blender and kind of blending things out. So as I'm working, I'm rotating my beauty blender so that I have an area that is utilized for blending out highlights. And then if I rotate it ever so slightly, I have an area of the beauty blender that's designed to help me blend out my shadows. This is where sometimes a sponge might be, can be a little bit more helpful than a beauty blender. In the roundness of the contour, sometimes the sharp angle of the sponge might be a little easier to use for some. It just becomes a personal preference. So now after blending, I'm going through and adding a little bit of highlight to the apple of Kat's cheeks, just to give that appearance of a little bit of highlight areas to pop out for the face. Here's a good example where you can kind of see, even in an unfinished state, just the leanness that's been created by creating a rounder object to the left side versus the flatness on my lean side. Using the same shadow contour, here I'm just using a powder brush or a cheek contour brush with a cheek contour. On my lean side, I'm creating that sharp angle. On the round side, it's going to be a curved shape and angle. Now I'm going to work on filling Kat's lip. On my lean side of the lip, I'm going to underpaint the lip ever so slightly. And as I work to my thicker side, I'm taking my pencil and overpainting just the edge of the lip to create that nice natural appearance. I'm not looking for a full-on like drag lip, but this is where the techniques that are taking us to that point. But I'm looking to create some fullness and or leanness to the lip. But one thing that does happen when you are doing, if you're overpainting the lip, even sometimes when you're underpainting the lip, sometimes we lose that natural highlight that goes around the lip. So here I'm actually taking a highlight stick and going back around the lip and repainting that highlight back into place, so that it's going to give the illusion that we see that natural highlight taking place in the lip. Now I'm going to be finishing the lip with just a little bit of a natural lip color, continuing to underpaint on my lean side and overpaint to my thicker side. Asking Kat to leave her lips closed, I just use a tissue to pull off any extra product, dabbing and patting excess. And here we have our completed look versus lean versus thick. So you can see the leaner pieces, the thicker pieces. It's my hope that you learned something with me today, and that remember, if you believe it's possible, you can make it possible.